There are some pretty horrendously dangerous coastlines around the world. Wicked, jagged rocks pointing up at the water's surface from below, like pungy sticks in a trap, just waiting to rip the bottom out of any unfortunate ship above. I live near a coastline that sailors in the 1800s absolutely feared. The Otway Coast, where big sailing ships that were months out from England, Europe and the Americas had to thread the needle between Otway Point and King Island with absolute precision, or else. Many didn't make it. Their wrecks litter the western side of King Island and the Otway Coast like flies on the windshield of a car. What came as a godsend to this remote part of the world was the Otway Light, a towering white lighthouse installed atop a green, grassy hill marking the dangerous rocky coast. And on the other side is the King Island Lighthouse marking that danger zone as well. From the mid-1800s, ships passing through could spot the lights and keep between them like driving within the lanes of a highway. The lighthouse was a remarkable innovation, guiding countless vessels safely home, and their contribution to the story of great ships is invaluable. Their purpose had been driven by some horrendous disasters and lessons learned the hard way. But did you ever wonder how they actually work? They seem simple, sure, but the systems and technology put into place to make sure that a single light could be seen from many miles away actually took centuries to perfect. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm your friend, Mike Brady from Oceanliner Designs, and this is the story of how the mighty lighthouse got its light. When I say lighthouse, you probably think of a big stone tower with a lens at the top revolving in the fog. This kind of modern lighthouse has really just been around for hundreds of years, but the concept behind them has been around way longer. See, as long as humans have taken to the ocean, we've had a pretty rough time of it. Really, one of the trickiest things at sea is obviously navigating when you can't see anything around you, and this is especially bad at night. With no visual landmarks in the darkness, boats and ships could just run straight into reefs and rocks and be broken up, with all hands lost. Back in the day, before the construction of lighthouses as we know them now, fire beacons were lit on top of hills nearing the shore to try and help solve the issue. These go so far back in history that you can actually catch references to them in Homer's The Iliad and the Odyssey, which was written as far back as the 8th century BC. The first verified lighthouse was the Pharos of Alexandria, built around 280 BC on the island of Pharos in Egypt. Its purpose was exactly what you would expect, to guide ships entering the harbour. The lighthouse was a monumental feat in early human construction, and it's considered one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. But unfortunately, it has since been totally destroyed. Historians estimate that it stood at least 330 feet or 100 meters tall, and it was lit by fire. It was pretty impressive stuff, and crucially, the general layout of the thing served as a blueprint for all future lighthouses. Ancient civilizations continued to build lighthouses of their own. The Romans especially, surprise surprise, these ancient Roman lighthouses would also use wood fires and torches to alert ships at sea to their location. Through the Dark Ages and into the modern era, lighthouses were lit by a whole bunch of different methods, like burning wood, using torches. Eventually, oil lamps and candles were used as well. But they all had one thing in common. The lights were fairly dim, and you just couldn't see them too well from far away. They were certainly better than nothing, but burning fires and coal needed constant tending to. So did candles. The effort required to keep the things going was immense. And it presented a unique issue, which is that a single momentary lapse in the light's function could completely negate the lighthouse's reason for existing at all in allowing disaster to play out. They had to be reliable to a sailor as the sun is during the day. Otherwise, what good were they? It was around the early 1700s that the development of the modern lighthouse had reached a crucial moment. There was suddenly rapid improvement in both the construction of the actual lighthouse itself, as well as, crucially, the actual lighting equipment. In fact, these modern construction methods even allowed for building lighthouses directly in the open ocean instead of exclusively on the shore. The Minnow's Ledge Light, for example, was built off the Massachusetts coast to mark a nasty underwater reef near the entrance to Boston Harbor that had taken more than 40 ships down. The first lighthouse was built, but was then lost itself in a storm a few months later. The second was built in 1860 and still stands and works to this day. Thanks to the rapid improvement in design and construction, it was estimated that by 1820 there were about 250 major lighthouses all around the world, and their success had been drastically increased by the development of an iconic and mesmerizingly beautiful piece of equipment, the Fresnel Lens. Now, until that point, lighthouses had simply burned material and hoped that the light could be seen. But some clever minds, as early as the 18th century, began to imagine a way the light could be focused like a beam and swept out to sea where it could be more easily spotted. It was a glass cutter, Londoner Thomas Rogers, whose lens, a full 14 centimeters or 5.5 inches thick at its center, became the first of its kind to focus a beam of light. It wasn't very efficient, and it actually absorbed much of the light itself, but it was a good demonstration of what could be. Frenchman Augustin Jean Fresnel had a better idea. Using sloped mirrors, his first lens focused the light from a simple oil lamp, but Fresnel was unhappy with wastage because light was still being absorbed. Instead, he incorporated reflective glass prisms in a complex array that essentially channeled the light from the lamp and sent it beaming out horizontally in a single huge beam of light. It was a brilliant system. The only issue was that the lens itself was incredibly complicated and expensive to make. But just look at these things. Fresnel lenses are shockingly beautiful, almost otherworldly. Unfortunately, Fresnel, who had suffered for years from poor health, never really lived to see a full-scale version of his final design in action, and he died aged just 39 years old. But his contribution would change the world. The Fresnel lens has been called the invention that saved 1 million ships, and for good reason. The biggest stands at over 8 feet, or 2.6 meters high. The series of reflective prisms within essentially captures, magnifies, and concentrates the light, casting it back out for up to 20 miles. Compare that against the older style of lighthouse, which maybe could be seen at around 10, it was a huge difference. In fact, Fresnel lenses are still used today in all kinds of things like projectors. They're even used for years and years in car headlights. No doubt you'll remember car headlights when they looked like this if you're of a certain age. The Fresnel lens changed everything. Although the light was still lit by something as simple as an oil lamp, it meant the light could be sent miles out to sea where it needed to be seen. Lighthouses across the world mounted those big, heavy, complicated but beautiful lenses on mechanical bases designed to rotate. This presented an issue though. Somebody needed to remain on station at all hours in the night to ensure there was enough oil to burn, that the lamp never went out, and that the lens never stopped rotating. Now, the solution for that last one was quite simple. Many lighthouses, rather than using engines or motors, used a much simpler system where each day an operator could crank a weight all the way up to the top of the lighthouse and then just slowly let it fall throughout the day, spinning the Fresnel lens and its lamp as it went. But the lamp itself needed round-the-clock care, and this is where the curious specimen known as the Lighthouse Keeper came into it. Lighthouse keeping was not an easy job. Well, it was in a way. Trimming the lamp, topping up oil reserves, and resetting the weight were easy enough tasks. The problem was the insufferable, choking boredom. Lighthouses, by their nature and purpose, typically needed to be built in remote areas. The result was a job that required almost total isolation from civilization for months on end, and an unending attention to duty, and a job that had to be worked in shifts around the clock through the night. Supply ships might come once or twice a year, and some lighthouse superintendents even resorted to looting to bolster their meager rations, and others even plundered from wrecked ships. Eventually, lighthouse keepers and their assistants were furnished with comfortable lodgings nearby, and even grand homes, with many rooms for their whole family to join them. The head lighthouse keeper at Cape Otway, for example, had a beautiful home, and even a schoolhouse for the kids to learn, but it wasn't a job for the faint of heart or the slack. Bad storms could sweep in and take the whole thing into the sea. If the lamp ever went out and a ship was wrecked, there was only one person to blame. For years and years and years, lighthouses were operated by dedicated crews around the clock, but then came the technological breakthroughs that brought a new age and saw the workload substantially changed. In 1901, Arthur Kitson of Britain invented the vaporized oil burner. This burner used vaporized kerosene mixed with air to burn an incandescent mantle. Later improved by David Hood of Trinity House and others, the vaporized oil burner was up to 6 times more powerful than the previously used oil wick lights. But then came acetylene gas in the early 1900s, which had a huge influence on advancing lighthouse technology in general, because it wasn't just a nice new brighter accelerant to burn. For the first time in history, automatic and unattended lighthouses were possible. A lighthouse could have an automatic day-night switch installed, which meant that the light could be extinguished without a human operator during the day. Slowly, lighthouses became more and more autonomous. Soon enough, tender ships could visit, their crews could restock the gas, lubricate the machinery, and then nick off again for a week or two. Eventually, though, it was electric light that would replace all forms of burning lamps. They actually had been trialled in lighthouses as early as 1858, but almost all of them were retrofitted back to oil-burning lamps because at the time they were just too costly to run and difficult to operate. Electric light was ultimately inevitable, of course, and its benefit was clear. In 1913, the Heligoland Lighthouse, located at the North Sea off Germany, was equipped with arc lamps and searchlight mirrors. This combination of technology allowed it to produce a light of 38 million candle power, easily the most powerful lighthouse in the world at the time, with an exceptional and much appreciated range. Electric light has remained the lighting method of choice all the way up to today. Of course, now it's all LED. Interestingly though, lighthouses don't just all use the same kind of light. See, part of successfully using them for navigation involves being able to identify the light at nighttime, but in an area like Long Island, New York, where there are dozens of hazards and lights to mark them, there needed to be a system in place to help ship's crews tell which was which. So, lighthouses each get their own unique visual identity. Some flash in simple sequences. The Minnow's ledge light, which we mentioned earlier, flashes a 1-4-3 cycle, first adopted in 1894, sometimes called the I love you pattern. It's a simple system, and it is still in use to this day. Today, for example, the Otway light flashes white 3 times every 18 seconds. Cape Wickham, over on King Island on the other side, flashes white twice every 10 seconds. Long Island has a bewildering array of lighthouses: Montauk Point, Plum Island, Long Beach Bar, Horton Point, Old Field, Fire Island, and many more, each with their own distinct light color and pattern. Of course, boat and ship captains are kitted out with manuals and charts making note of exactly this kind of information to help guide their vessels to safety. So the short answer to the question, are lighthouses still used today, is yes. They can still be found at all the usual locations like rocky cliff faces, reefs, and entrances to harbours. The answer to why a lighthouse is still used is probably a little bit more in-depth. See, today ships, of course, have the luxury of GPS positioning systems, digital nautical charts, radar, and much more. These technologies are great, but they only play part of a role in keeping ships safe. Lighthouses, buoys, or buoys to Americans, beacons, and other electronic aids are still used to provide more protection, and they're in no short supply. In fact, it's estimated that 48,000 buoys, beacons, and electronic aids are used to mark more than 25,000 miles of waterways, harbour channels, and coasts. They serve more than 300 major ports. These are actually referred to as active aids for navigation. As far as lighthouses specifically though, some have indeed been closed down or converted to museums, but many are still doing the same job they have been for decades. They're essentially analog safety features to serve as a backup in a digital world. GPS, radios, radar, and other electronics are all prone to failure, but a physical navigational reference point like a lighthouse is hard to miss. It can still be used to confirm your position if anything else fails. They serve as an extremely valuable backup. Importantly, lighthouses don't rely on any sort of signal to function, so in areas of the world that are just more remote, they still provide a visual coastal marker for ships. Their visual guidance is constant, reliable, and it doesn't rely on any sort of really advanced technology. It cannot be understated how important it is that ships can accurately determine their distance from the shore at all times. Lighthouses keep these ships safe, as well as, of course, the environment around them. The positioning of a lighthouse prevents ships from running aground and destroying precious coral reefs, preventing oil spills and all that destruction that they cause. These days, some countries around the world have been turning off their network of lighthouses, but they should still be long for this world. Most have been upgraded to use LED lights, with fantastic visual ranges to boot, and some have been equipped with solar power. By keeping the maintenance time and costs down, it's easier to justify keeping lighthouses open and functional. They're nearly totally autonomous, meaning the lighthouse keeper of old is a virtually extinct profession. So, That's how the lighthouse got its light, from burning wood and coal on top of hills to today's fully automatic LED systems and revolving motors all powered by electricity. It's all very impressive, but there's nothing quite so evocative as the image of a remote lighthouse back in the 1800s with its whale oil lamp burning bright, its Fresnel lens twisting around, shining a beam way off into the fog. Ladies and gentlemen, it's your friend Mike Brady from Oceanliner Designs. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a comment below. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel because we get new videos out weekly. If you want to support my work and get really cool perks like behind the scenes and early access, please visit my Patreon in the link in the description below, or sign up as a YouTube member. Come and join the crew. As always, stay safe, stay happy, and I'll see you again next time.